Welcome to the You Can Man podcast, episode 24. I'm Josh.
I'm Tim.
And I'm Dave.
And on this week's episode, fire drill.
What's the procedure? What do we do, people?
Bones are dead.
Oh, how did that happen?
It's out in the hall.
No, we don't know that. The smoke could be coming through an air duct.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm! Everybody calm down!
No, Michael, no! Touch the handle. If it's hot, there could be a fire in the hallway.
What does warm mean?
Oh my gosh.
Not a viable option. What next?
Don't try!
Open the other door.
All right, that was just a little teaser for our topic that we've got today. Obviously, talking fire safety. For those of you who are not Office fans, that was one of the best.
That's a classic one, right?
One of the best intros the show's ever had.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a good
so
one.
we thought we'd play that one.
Love that one.
Anyways, Dave, how was your week?
It was good. Something just occurred to me. Episode 24, Josh, isn't that your baseball number, softball number now?
That's my go-to.
How do you
jersey
pick it?
number.
How do you pick it up? I just signed my kid up for T-ball, right? First organized sport, and they were like, "Hey, what are your preferred numbers?" I was like, "Okay, really?
Yeah, we
how
didn't
do you
do
pick?
that.
I mean, how do you pick it? You had to.
No.
Well, it's
Did
for-
because I tried to submit the form without putting numbers in there, and they were like, "You forgot this field."
My wife must have done it.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I was like,
I don't remember
3,
that.
6,
I
9.
don't remember when Luke did T-ball. I don't remember them.
I think when
asking
I
me
was
that.
really little, I liked 10 because that was Chipper Jones.
Yeah.
And then, I've morphed over to 24, I think, since I've been like a teenager.
Seems like a random number. I mean, I played sports growing up, but I never had like a number
Ken
that I was
Griffey
super.
number 24.
I
That
can't
could be why I wore 24.
Those are tall shoes to
When
fill.
I asked my son, I do remember this conversation. We were asking him about what number, and he's only 4.5. And he goes, 5097. I said, okay, well, then we'll just write down numbers for you.
Yeah, well, I just signed Luke up for lacrosse. Did we already talk about this?
Not on the podcast, I don't think.
The joke used to be that people that played lacrosse were the guys who couldn't play football, but now it's different. Like lacrosse, being in the South, it wasn't. I think when we were in high school, it wasn't a thing.
No,
it was a rich kid sport, right?
Yes, it was only my friends that were in
Ivy League.
Yeah,
private school.
Yeah, it was a private school thing, but now it's pretty. It's all over the place.
mainstream.
Right? I don't know about all the high schools, but a lot of the high schools have lacrosse programs. So what they're doing is getting kids in it as young as like 4th grade, which in the junior program, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what Luke's doing. The gear is kind of expensive.
Yeah,
that's anything
pretty
now,
much
though.
any
That's
sport.
anything.
Yeah.
Lacrosse seems kind of cool because it's more, kind of like helter-skelter than football, but you still get to hit people. So it seems kind of
And it's truly American
yeah.
because it was like rooted in Native American.
I say yeah.
stuff.
I don't know.
Huh.
Yeah, I say that too, actually. Now I need to research
We'll claim
but
it. The You Can Man podcast is claiming.
I'm pretty sure that's right.
Seems right.
Anyways.
Yeah, lacrosse it's a tough sport. I've never played it, but it looks like you could get hurt.
Well,
slamming into
and you got
people.
to hustle, right?
There's a lot of running. Yeah. It's a good.
Tell them to get after
conditioning-
it.
Good conditioning sport.
Yep.
So Tim, you just had a birthday, man.
I did 38.
Huge birthday, right?
Whoa.
You know, I was thinking-
are
Did you guys
old.
blow it out?
Not at all. We did next to nothing, which is fine. I'm not a big birthday person. Once you hit 35, you get to that age where you start to forget how old you are.
It's over after
yeah.
that. Like there's nothing.
You have to legitimately stop, do some math.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
I'm backwards, so I'm not yet 38. About to be a couple weeks here, but I've thought I was 38 for I think the past 2 years.
I've done that too, where I'm
going
like,
the wrong way.
I say the wrong thing, and I'm like, that's not correct.
Yeah.
And have you ever done that? But then you have to clarify, and then you're like, what are they thinking about me that I don't even know how old I am? It's
Because
really
it
weird.
doesn't matter. Age is just a number, Dave.
Okay.
Some days I feel really old. Some days I feel like, I'm still pretty young.
Yeah,
It's that weird age.
You're not old, but you're not young, right?
I'm
Yeah.
in physically better condition than I've been in like 7 or 8 years. So I feel like I'm averaging my age out a little bit.
Yeah.
Feeling good.
I will say for several years I've had the thought it's almost over. Like it's
well, you're at least halfway.
Wow.
yeah, we're halfway done here.
Yeah.
Okay, the party's almost over. which I'm
They're
happy
in the
about.
back half.
It's getting dark.
Not happy about. I'm just meaning
Excited.
not afraid to die.
So you'd call this your
Today
your
is
golden
a good
years?
day to die. What's that?
This is your golden years?
Sure,
All right.
could be.
Good for you.
Sunset years.
Anyways,
Let's get into this topic.
yes, fire
Okay.
safety.
So excited to talk
This-
fire safety.
Yeah, it's one of those topics. Josh had brought it up as a show topic. And at first listen, you're like, fire safety. Do I really want to listen to a podcast on fire safety?
Yeah.
But listen, it's important.
It's super important and insanely nerdy.
And you think you know everything because if you went to elementary school, you
Right.
pretty much learned everything about fires. But there's a lot as an adult, as a homeowner or a home occupant. Even if you live in an apartment or a condo, there are things you need to be aware of when it comes to fires.
It's
Yeah.
different than it used to be for sure.
It's one of those things, we've mentioned several times, things like you need to know where your water shutoff valve is, right?
Yeah.
And then people are like, oh, yeah, I got that. And then a pipe explodes. And like when I was over at my buddy's house and his pipe explodes. Now, granted, he just moved into the house, but he should have known where that was.
he should have listened to our episode.
Thankfully, I was there, and he was able to like hold that pipe with his thumb.
Yeah.
But water's gushing out everywhere. He didn't know where it was. What my point is, fire safety is one of those kind of things that you just kind of take for granted, don't think about, but you need to be proactive about.
It's not
Yes.
too late until it's too late.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's not something you want to put off, right?
So yeah, we've got this episode kind of broken down into a few segments. I stole some of these from. I'm in the cybersecurity industry and cybersecurity software, and we have these terms called prevent, detect, respond, things like that. So these are actually kind of the first three topics we're going to get into: is prevention, detection, response, escape, and then how to defend if you can't escape. So
Right.
Defend like
And a lot
get
of-
the water hose out.
Maybe.
do what you can. Yeah.
I was going to, a lot of these things, you're going to hear them and you're going to say, I know that. I know that already. But this is, we're taking time because it's so important to remind you of these things to where you might second guess yourself and be like, well, did I replace that smoke detector? Did I check into that? Do I have a plan? That sort of thing.
Yep. All right, so we're going to start at the top here with prevent. So how do we prevent fires from starting in the first place? The first easiest one is educate your kids to not play with fire.
And as an adult, don't play with fire in your house.
It's a good rule.
Usually good rule. Yeah.
Good rule.
Yeah, when I talk to my kids about fire, I don't mince words. Like, listen, if you play with fire inside the house, you will burn this house down. Same goes for, when they're really little. Do not go on the street. If you go on the street, you may get hit by a car and die.
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason to like let off the accelerator on that. You're not trying to.
Well, if you
It's
want to
a
send your
healthy
kids
fear.
down a black hole of darkness and fear
it's
and despair.
I think it's a healthy fear.
Yeah, a healthy.
I
fear.
agree. Keep it
Because
real.
there's no reason to like be like, it's you probably shouldn't play with fire. Like,
You need to use
between on
strong words. I did that with my kid literally tonight. I said, "Hey, buddy, we don't play with fire because fire." I said that fire could burn the house down, and he said Harrison has a book called "Dragons Love Tacos."
that. Oh, so he's on board.
Yeah, he
Okay,
was all
yeah.
about it.
Good chat.
It did not go over his head, and we're
We'll talk
good now.
We'll talk later, son. Yes. Okay. So don't play with fire. That's easy. A lot of house fires, not so much in Georgia, the South where we live. We have fires mostly for decoration
Yes.
and to make it feel like it's fall or winter, even when it's 65 degrees outside.
There's 6 weeks a year where you could use a fire.
Yeah.
right?
So
We're talking fireplaces.
Fireplaces in the house.
Yes.
So a lot of fires caused by fires not being put out thoroughly in a fireplace or embers from the fireplace getting out. Usually leaping out onto the carpet in the middle of the night or not taking your ashes. So if you're cleaning out your fireplace and putting your ashes in the bucket, leaving the bucket in the house, that's usually a bad idea.
Yeah, I know a family, and they put what they thought was completely cold ashes. I'm just thinking about this. Like, seriously, even if you think ashes are completely cold and they've been sitting there forever, look, embers can smolder for a very long time. Anyways, they put it in a trash can in their garage. Got the garage on fire and burned the house down.
Like I've seen Bear Grylls take an ember from one campsite, trek across 4 mountains, and like deposit the ember in another fire pit, and he was good to go. So I mean, I'm not. When I have a fire in my fireplace, which is rare because I'm scared of fires, I don't mess around. Like that stuff is just getting doused upon doused upon doused with water.
Yes. I had another little old man comment that you've been talking about gardening and stuff. You could take your spent ashes and put those in the garden. They raise the pH level of your soil.
Nice.
But don't use it on anything that's really acidic loving plants like blueberries.
Wouldn't even know.
Yeah,
But don't do that,
lost.
Yeah, it'll provide like phosphorus, potassium, calcium, those sorts of things.
Will it kill kudzu?
I don't think so.
So we are not going to have ashes in our house. Completely put out fires. Use your fire screens and the doors on your fireplace if you have those as well. Something to prevent the spread of fires. Close those doors at night. So this apparently has been like a urban legend or just a point of argument over the years about sleep with your door open versus sleep with your door closed and which one's the better one. Today, I think the consensus is shut your bedroom doors at night.
No, it's proven. No, it's proven. It's proven.
There's a YouTube video that came out like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 Christmases ago, that they set up the house and did the differences, doors open versus doors closed. It was shocking.
Really?
It was shocking.
There's a
Because of like the draft that can come through a house?
I mean, it's literally, it allows
Smoke,
the fire to
heat,
move.
actual flames.
Wow.
I ran across a website, and I'll put this on our show links or show notes. Closeyourdoor.org. And it's all about sleeping with your door closed to prevent the spread of fire.
I have never heard of this.
Yeah.
And they had a stat on there that said 40 years ago, you had about 17 minutes to escape a fire.
Wow. That's
Today,
a long time.
You have about 3 minutes.
Why?
Because of all the synthetic materials that we now use.
Yeah, but things are so like are
solid.
required to be flame retardant. Like carpets and your chipboard in your house.
You
all
think
that
so?
stuff.
But think of the just sheer amount of and like building materials too. So
We have hollow core doors versus
Exactly.
solid
Yeah,
core
yeah,
doors. Yeah.
I've often thought about this because I have a dryer that's in its own room. It's the farthest room away from all the bedrooms. And sometimes I don't like to leave the dryer going at night while we're asleep, but sometimes it'll have like 20 minutes left or whatever. So I'll shut the door to that room. And I always think to myself, there's a smoke detector in there. I always think to myself, if that goes off, I'm not going to hear it. Should I open the door so I can hear the smoke detector?
Well,
I know what you're going to say.
We'll get to that point.
We're going to get to that. But anyway, I always kind of struggle with that. But yeah, closing your doors makes sense.
Yeah. So, the last one here, just close your doors at night. That's the advice. I mean, if you have other issues that you need to have your door open, that's up to you. But from a fire safety perspective, it's better to have them closed.
yeah, if you are, let's say you're moving into a new house and you're going to replace the doors, okay? I really do kind of regret not spending the money on solid core doors because that's going to act, it's going to be a better sound barrier too, but it's going to be a better fire break.
And it makes your house feel nicer.
Or it's going to be an actual fire break because a hollow core door is not much.
There's nothing there.
I mean, it is better than having the door open, obviously.
Sure.
But anyway, spend the extra money. They are like 50% more probably in cost than, if not more.
Yep.
Anyways.
But they're classier. So,
Yep.
All right. Next section here is detect. So, fire does happen. How are we going to know? How do we know about this? Here's some quick fire alarm statistics. So, obviously, a fire alarm is your first notification that a fire is occurring in your house. Almost 3 out of every 5 home fire deaths resulted from fires in homes with no smoke alarms or smoke alarms that weren't operating properly. We're talking 57% of people who died in a fire had non-working alarms or no alarms at all.
Yeah, that's just a no-brainer. You got to have good quality working smoke detectors. I have a question for you guys. How many smoke detectors did you have in your house growing up?
Man,
one or two.
We had one. We had one smoke detector.
one or two, maybe.
I mean, these days, you're basically just taking your life in your own hands, right? If you have one smoke detector in your house.
Yeah, that is not advised.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, and we're going to get to that, but need to have more than one.
Yeah. So, and again, the death rate per 1,000 reported home fires was more than twice as high in homes that did not have any working smoke alarms. So,
I mean, if you watch This Is Us, then you got to have a working smoke detector.
never seen that.
I don't watch it either, but I do. As I walk through the living room and my wife's watching, I'm like, oh, why is that guy going back into that burning building?
Yep.
Ladies, all the ladies of UCAN Manland, you know what I'm talking about.
So, yes, I'm guessing that's a point for This Is Us. Is that what you said?
Yeah, This Is Us.
Smoke detectors, fire alarms, these are the sorts of things that people just don't think about. And you got to stop and think about it. And don't be afraid. I was going to say, too, you're over at a friend's house. I'm that guy. I'm the guy that tells you that your kid is buckled in the car seat wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You are
I'm
that guy.
also the guy that's going to point out, you don't have enough fire detectors here.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to be that guy. It may be annoying, and I may be known as a guy. I know that I am already. But
yes, we do too.
Step up, be that guy, because you may save their life.
It's certainly something that people need to know about.
All right, so let's go with the actual placement of these fire alarms. We talked about growing up. We maybe had one or two fire alarms. That is not adequate. So today they recommend alarms on each level of the home at minimum.
Right.
Outside of every sleeping area, so kind of maybe in a hallway, outside of all your bedrooms. They also want one inside every bedroom. They want them placed high on walls or up on the ceiling. That's where smoke rises to. And near any stairwells that go up to upper levels, because the smoke will travel, again, to the highest point. So it'll go up the stairwells. Away from any windows or vents to prevent any drafts interfering with the smoke alarms. And then at least, this one kind of bothers me because I see this a lot. At least 10 feet away from cooking appliances. I see so many people with smoke alarms right in their kitchen, like right near their stove or like in the ceiling right above. That's too close. Like that thing's going to go off all the time and drive you crazy and cause you to unplug it or take the batteries out. So you don't, I've read, this says at least 10 feet. I've read you don't even need one. I mean, unless your kitchen's huge, you don't even need one in your kitchen. Like right outside.
I would agree with that.
Your kitchen is acceptable.
I have a question.
Check the code, check your local codes for that.
So I'm just curious, are you ticking all the boxes? Because there's a lot of requirements there. It was a bit of a reality check for me because I don't have them in every bedroom.
We had all of our electrical redone when we did our major renovation, so we had to bring stuff up to code. So all of the detectors, each one in each bedroom.
Are you hardwired?
Oh yeah,
nice.
Hardwired and interconnected. That's part of our next thing we're going to talk about. But yeah, pretty much checking all those boxes.
Yeah, that's negative. All of our bedrooms are we're in a super tight hallway.
You're close.
All three bedrooms upstairs are right on top of each other. There's one right in the hallway outside basically all the bedrooms, and then one at the other end of the hallway, not inside the bedrooms. I guess we could do better on that. I've got one going up to the second floor from the basement at the stairwell. Got that checked off. We have a pretty small footprint, but
you should have one in your garage.
We could use more.
You should have one in your garage.
Yeah,
sneak one in there. You know what's nice now, or the new ones, because I just bought like 4 of them. You like set it and forget it for 10 years, right? It's guaranteed. That's kind of nice.
I think we talked about that on a previous podcast.
Yeah, but
so that's kind of the standard now.
That goes into our next point. So, what types of fire alarms? Like Tim said, you really want them interconnected. I mean, that's involves electrical work, running wires. It's definitely a UCAN Man project. If you want it to be, you might want to hire an electrician if you don't feel comfortable with that. There's 2 different types of smoke detectors. We're not going to get into the super details on the differences, but one detects flame more and one detects smoke more. There are dual sensors, a little more expensive, but they detect both flame and smoke, but they're going to be a little more expensive. And then, yes, replace when they're 10 years old, no matter what. Even if it's one where you change the batteries out, they recommend change the whole system out every 10 years.
Just a good practice.
fixture.
Right. And I had talked about on a previous podcast where if you have a unit that is already 10 years old, is still working just fine, they actually have a built-in lifespan where they will start beeping even though they have fresh batteries in them. And I didn't know that. So I'm like, what in the world is going on to just replace those batteries? And it would just like a random just beep, every so often. I Google it. Sure enough, they have some sort of 10-year expiration thing, and it'll just start randomly beeping. And that's what it is. So if yours is kind of going haywire, that might actually be it. And it's time to throw that in the trash and get a brand new one. Did we talk about having carbon monoxide in one, right? So you can get the unit that'll be the dual sensor, but it will also have carbon monoxide. So if you're going to spend the money, it should really do all of that.
Yeah, and you don't need, you probably don't need carbon monoxide maybe in every smoke detector. You might want one for whatever. I mean, it's a cost thing, but again, how much is your life worth, people?
Whoa, keeping it real. Well, I had a little bit of a scare not too long ago with the dual sensor, a smoke detector and a carbon monoxide detector. I bought new detectors and I was installing them, and one night I put one on my son's dresser and forgot about it for a few days. And one night I'm, downstairs and I hear it go off. I hear a smoke detector go off. So I run upstairs and it's going off in his bedroom, and he's sitting like, straight up in his bed, like, what's going on? I said, did you touch that? And he's like, no. I was like, did you get up and touch that smoke detector? Did you press the button? And he's like, no. I was like, I'm asking one more time. Like, did you do it or not? And he's like, I didn't do it. So I don't know what happened. There was no smoke. And then I'm starting to think, I'm like, okay, is there carbon monoxide because it's odorless in color? I'm like, do I have a headache? Am I going crazy?
I sleepy?
I don't know what happened with that thing, but I think it might have been because it was face up. Maybe dust got in there or something. Anyway, we'll never know.
That could be the case. Yeah.
It was brand new. I was like, I don't trust this thing anymore.
Yeah. So spend the money if you can on the all-in-one units, carbon monoxide and fire and smoke. Next step is going to be response. So you got a fire, you've detected it, alarm wakes you up. What's your next course of action? I read a statistics. I didn't write it down, but the statistic was shockingly low on the percentage of people that said their first thought upon hearing their alarm go off would be to get out of the house. Maybe I shouldn't be too shocked, but I guess their first instinct would be like, let's take a look around and figure out what's going on here. I think that's everyone's first step. Your first response they want is to mobilize, and that is to get a hold of everyone in your house, track everyone down, get a head count, and then start getting out. And that's what they want you to do instead of like,
Well, I'll say this. In my false alarm, I did not I mobilized myself upstairs. Like, I didn't run out the door.
At least you headed towards your son.
Yeah, I mean, I got to go, obviously got to save the family, number one. But I think I would probably go check it out.
Yeah, and more than you, an adult may have the presence of mind. But again, remember, a lot of fires happen in the middle of the night. You could be super groggy. Some people are better at this than others. If I'm up like immediately. I'm ready to go. But more for children than adults. We want your children's instinct, and we'll get to kind of how we get there with them. You want your children's first instinct to be, okay, we need to leave. Because if mom or dad is incapacitated or unable to assist, like the kids need to know on their own where to go, what to do. So, yeah, that's the response.
I remember, did you guys as kids, we don't have these on our windows, but our bedrooms were the second floor, and my mom got these stickers that were for the fire department to know where the kids' bedrooms are.
Oh, that's smart.
It was just like a sticker of a fireman's helmet or I don't really remember, but I remember we
just to let them know.
I don't know if that's still a thing.
I don't know.
I've never heard of that.
So this is our response. We're mobilizing. Next step is escape. So we got to get out of the house here. Number one, make an escape plan with your family. This sounds complicated, but if you think about a lot of you guys that work in office environments, you guys have fire drills like once or twice a year at least. I'm guessing if you work in a corporate building, I know we do, and I work in a like 7 or 8 story building. Every year, fire drill. And that's for the adults. So You need an escape plan for your family, for your children. It's not complicated. 2 ways out. Try to find 2 ways out of every room if possible. Windows, doors.
And of course, you'd have the conversation about checking the doorknob if it's hot and that sort of thing.
Yeah, all those minor details that, you can watch the fire drill episode of The Office to get a lot of. Dwight really walks us through.
He does a good job.
Yeah,
And
he covers all the bases.
you need to have an escape plan, right? Because you don't want to be winging it, the day of, right? I read something that was kind of interesting. I read something that said a blaze doubles roughly every minute.
I read that
doubles
too.
in size roughly every minute. And so when you're headed out of your house, you don't have everybody outside, and you go back in. That the fire could be roughly twice as large if it's been a minute.
Yeah.
So it really gets out of hand quickly.
Yeah, map out that plan. Show the kids the plan. Drill the plan.
This is something that we haven't really done.
Same here. I think everyone around this table, again, we know the right things to do.
I'm going to tell them to just
Are you
go
trying to
ring your
execute?
doorbell. Like everybody, just meet over it. Just pound on their door.
I will accept them on the front porch and save them from the fire. You got to delegate specific people to get any infants or toddlers, or if you have an elderly with you or any disabled folks with you. So someone needs to be in charge of someone else if you've got that situation. So, and then you also need to have a backup if that person's not there that day or whatever. Just, plan out as many contingencies as you can. Don't make it overcomplicated, but do have a plan.
You want to crawl out if there's smoke.
Yep. Ultimately, if there's smoke, you're down low.
I read fall and crawl. That's what you tell kids.
Yeah. Okay. And really just you're directing them out of the house, and hopefully path of least resistance, they can get out through their door, down the hallway or whatever. But if the fire is between them and the front door, you may be exiting out of a window or a second story window.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know how many people have, ladders in their house, because I'm on a second story and
it's got to be slim to none.
It's got to be slim to none. One of my kids' windows, it's way up there, so they're doing trust falls out of the window. You know what I mean?
They have
a long way
special
to go.
escape ladders that they're rolled up, and it just mounts on the wall there, and it stays there.
Oh, it mounts on the wall?
Yeah, it doesn't look. I mean, I don't know. It's going to look like a rolled up ladder. It's like a treehouse ladder, a rope ladder with the rungs, and you roll it up and it mounts on the wall.
Yep.
I've seen these.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
There's a picture of it.
At the end of the day, though, if you're going out a window, a broken ankle, you're going to survive. Like most houses, I feel like from a second story, if you have to, worst comes to worst and you got to jump, you got to jump.
Yeah, and it's all based on your case. If you've got a third story bedroom over your driveway, you may be looking into the escape ladder. And you may want to think about, which rooms you're putting your kids in. I mean, that could be a decision that needs to be made as well. Yeah, I've got one of my kids' bedrooms is on a second story. The window is over grass. If he hung out the windowsill and dropped, he'd probably be all right.
Yeah, I think he'd be all right.
And, again, a ladder kind of invites kids to play with it, maybe in certain circumstances if it's like a second story window.
Yeah, that's something I probably would have done.
And then, again, it's all age specific. If they're 7 or 8 and they can hang out of a window and drop, you might be okay. So that's your call on that. But, escape ladders are available. And then we'll just tie this up again with drill this and practice this. Do it during the daytime. Do a slow walkthrough. Find a meeting place. So we talked about designating a meeting place.
We didn't, but that's super important.
You mentioned it. But it needs to be the mailbox somewhere away from the house, not in the middle of the street probably, but out at your mailbox, at the end of the driveway, at a big tree in the yard, at a neighbor's house, whatever you want to designate. Everyone needs to know this is the one place we're all going to if we all have to leave under our own power, not together.
And if you're not here, we're going to assume that you are still in the house.
Correct. Yeah. Practice. And I think it's the National Fire Prevention Association website I was on. They want you to practice during the day and at night. And so they say at night, before you go to bed, you're going to tell your kids, hey, we're going to have a fire drill tonight. Okay. Now, if some of your kids are like one of my kids, someone's in zombie land, like in the middle of the night, no matter what, they're going to be barely awake, barely functioning. But that's what's going to happen in real life when the fire alarm goes off. So you need to, before bed, you're going to say, we're going to have a fire drill. And then middle of the night, here we go. Might not want to do it on a school night.
Because you don't want to cause trauma.
Yeah,
to
you
a
don't
child.
want to set the alarm off in their ear,
Yeah,
right?
they say they want you to prepare, not scare. So, middle of the night, just wake up. Hey, guys, no fire, but we're going to practice getting out of here in the dark. And, fires can put the power out. You might be in the pitch black.
Yeah,
So-
I read something and said fire is dark. You don't think about that, right? Because
good.
flames are bright, but when a fire gets going, there's all that smoke. You're not going to see anything.
Even if lights are on,
Right.
like thick black smoke,
Good
puts
thing
the
to
lights out.
prep for.
Maybe you need flashlights in each room. You should probably have that anyway. There's
Yeah.
kind of no downside. Your kids will play with it, but my kid wants a flashlight anyway, so he's got one. Okay, last resort here. This one is the defend section. So what if you can't escape? Maybe you live in a third floor.
Let's just not
apartment.
talk about that one.
Maybe
Rough.
Maybe you live in a third floor apartment. Maybe you live in a high rise, and the fire is below you. What are we doing? So if that happens, they want you to seal the room off as best as you can. So if you're in a condo, for instance, maybe you got a roll of duct tape somewhere. You can tape up your doors, just prevent heat and air moving from the fire into your unit. So seal up as best as you can. You can use clothing or sheets or towels or wet towels under the doors and things like that. Just do it as best you can. Open windows to the outside at the top and bottom to allow some air circulation in your unit. And then again, with flashlights, clothing, anything, signal to the outside that you are in there. So hang sheets out, wave sheets, flashlights, and hopefully the fire rescue will have eyes on you.
This just brought back memories of watching footage from 9/11, and I don't want to think about that.
Yeah, it's not good.
I really don't.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I've done is I've got fire extinguishers on both levels of my house, and it's twofold. Number one, if the fire is small enough, I'm putting that thing out. Number two, if worst comes to worst, like that's my last line of defense, right? Trying to buy myself some time. So it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, I guess we didn't even touch on.
Well, that's good. I mean, defend.
That's part of
where,
defend. Yeah.
So if you, if you have a kitchen fire that has just started and it's relegated to the stove, grab that fire extinguisher that you should have in your kitchen. Everyone should go check.
I've got one in my garage that's right next to the kitchen.
So grab the fire extinguisher, try to put that out. Beyond being able to put a fire out quickly, if you cannot put a fire out quickly with one fire extinguisher, you are now immobilized.
Yeah, it's 911
You are
time.
now leaving. So, I think that pretty much covers it, guys.
We hit all the big points, I think.
Yeah, I did remember one thing. Just added, we didn't have it on the notes here, but I read something about when you leave your house. Let's say that you're escaping a fire and you're going out your front door. A lot of people just run out the front door and not shut the door, but you should shut the door
We don't live in a barn.
because hopefully my kids have heard me say, shut the door, so many times about, having the air on or whatever.
Negative.
That
They won't listen.
They won't. But it's to prevent any outside oxygen to fuel that fire. So
smart.
it's probably not going to do like a whole lot.
Yeah.
But they did mention that. So it goes back to closing those doors, isolating the flames, preventing more fuel oxygen getting to the flames.
Yep. Well, good stuff, guys. Again, we are not the experts, but these are the basics.
This was a reminder. This is a wake up call. Hey,
Yeah.
It was a wake up call for me.
because you don't think about it ever, and so this was your wake up call. Check your fire alarms, get a plan together. Think about these simple things that you should be doing.
Yeah, and most of us, Tim, for instance, most of us know a family who's been affected by a fire or lost their house by a fire. I mean, these things happen, so best to go in with a plan before it happens to you.
Yeah, and hey, if you know of a friend that you're in their house and you're like, hey, you need more smoke detectors, and they're like, oh man, just be fun, just be that guy, and next time their birthday rolls around, just buy them a fire detector.
Nice.
And they'll be like, what in the world?
Refer them to this episode.
Exactly.
as well.
Exactly. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, Josh has the bonus segment. We'll be back.
Ooh, goody.
This episode is sponsored by 1776 United. 1776 United is a patriotic and historically inspired lifestyle brand. They make the best patriotic shirts and apparel on the market today. I personally own many of their products, and if you want to don patriotic gear without looking gaudy, check them out on Instagram, Facebook, and at 1776united.com.
All right, we're back. Josh, you got the bonus segment this week. What's up? It better be good.
And go.
Wow.
Thanks for that, Dave.
You're welcome.
All right. This segment is going to be called Free Fallin'.
And I'm free.
Exactly. So this is about Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. It is not. This is about people who have fallen, and
Can't get up?
you'll find out. You'll find out. I'm going to tell you some stories. I got three little stories for you guys. All right.
Before you start, I had a friend of mine who's an avid UK Man listener, and he was listening to your segment on like a hole in the head about drilling.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't know if he like listens late at night or something, but it kind of messed him up.
Oh,
I was like, really?
Like, it freaked him out?
I don't know if he lays in bed, listen. I don't know. It's something weird. Like he said he listens to it late at night. And he was like, yeah, man, that kind of messed me up.
Your recurring theme is all these calamities that are falling people.
Yeah, I like sensational stories of survival. I
Okay,
think.
yeah.
And this one is going to fit right
Tonight
in there.
All right.
on Rescue
Bring
911.
it. Bring it, Josh.
Yes.
Free falling.
Free falling. If you have certain phobias, they're just going to be amplified after this episode. So good luck.
Cool.
All right. This is going to be Julianne Kopka. I know I'm saying that name wrong. It's German. And she, on Christmas Eve of 1971, she was in an airplane flying over Peru. She was 17. Did I say that already?
No.
She's 17. She's flying over Peru with her parents, who are German zoologists, and they'd moved to Peru to study wildlife. She had received her high school diploma the day before and had planned on studying zoology like her parents. So they're on this flight. It's only supposed to be an hour long. Clouds gather. Some turbulence happens.
I don't like where this is going.
We're in 1971. The plane is in the middle of a thunderstorm. And, things are getting rough. Crazy turbulence. I'm sure we've all been on a flight with some sort of turbulence. Well, lightning struck the motor and caused it, I guess, to explode. And basically, the plane breaks into pieces. Now, the problem with that is they're in an airplane. They're at about 10,000 feet, and the plane breaks apart. The problem is she's aware of what's happening, and she could hear people screaming. She can hear the motors, but she is just buckled into her seat and free falling through the sky before she loses consciousness. Yeah, what's crazy is...
Wait, she's separate from the plane?
Yeah, she's separated from the plane.
Okay,
after it
plane
breaks apart.
So she's in the seat and she's dropping and things aren't looking good.
Yeah, so she blacks out over the Peruvian rainforest at 10,000 feet. Well, she wakes up with a broken collarbone and a gash on her calf.
You just described the opening scenes of Lost.
Yeah.
The television show.
Oceana.
Yeah.
So plane breaks up. She survives in the jungle.
A 10,000.
How is that possible?
Hold on, a 10,000 feet
Yep.
fall?
From 10,000 feet, I think the jungle canopy just like...
No.
Bullcrap.
No way.
I mean, that's some supernatural stuff. There's no 10,000 feet.
Falling from an airplane, Josh.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
maybe
To question the story.
maybe if she'd
I'm not-
fallen into water, maybe. But even that, I've heard is like hitting
This
concrete.
is
I mean,
on...
It happened to Jack on Lost, so it
The
could happen
news.
to the German lady.
Yeah, I mean, this was like huge story
It's
in
crazy.
1971.
was she the only person like that survived?
Meaning, we'll get to that.
Okay.
She was the only survivor from that plane. There were 91 people on board. She's the only survivor. So there's a huge long story. You can read more about her, but she spent 11 days in the jungle. She looked for her parents. She couldn't find her mom. She couldn't find her dad.
Well, yeah.
She found a stream. She found some wreckage and found like a bag of candy. And that was her food for 11 days. She followed a stream downstream until she found this little hut with a boat in it. And she was nervous about taking this boat. And so she didn't, because she didn't want to steal someone's boat. This is how a 17-year-old thinks after traumatic injury. But it belonged to some missionaries, and they were kind of scared of her at first, because she, a German girl coming out of the jungle all messed up into Peru. But anyway, they helped her out. They got her back to civilization. And yeah, she was the only person on board. I think I misspoke earlier. Both her parents were not on the plane. I don't know if I said that, but they were not on the plane. Her mother was on the plane.
I was thinking they were.
Her father was not on the plane. She was reunited with her father later. Anyway, yeah, survived.
I guess she wouldn't have had a concept of how high in the air she was, especially if she blacked out.
It doesn't matter. If you're in a plane, you're high enough. Here's something interesting. The LD50, so the LD50 is a medical term, and it stands for the lethal dose 50. And what that means is if you administer something to a population of people, it's the dosage at which it will kill 50% of the population. So the LD50 for falling is 50 feet, right? So if you fall 50 feet, essentially, if 100 people fall 50 feet,
you have a 50%
50 of them are going to die, 50 of them are going to live. So this lady, she was bucking the trend, I will say.
That's incredible.
There is no way. Did you run across articles that somebody had to have been like, this was a miracle? I mean, there's no way around it.
Let me get to my next story.
He's going to one-up himself.
Story number 2 happened only a year later, January 26th of 1972. That was like a month later. So someone survived a 10,000-foot jungle fall in Christmas Eve of 1971. In January of 1972, Vesna Vulovic was a flight attendant, and she was 22 years old. And on a flight from, I think she's Czechoslovakian, but on a flight from Stockholm to Belgrade with a stopover in Copenhagen, Denmark, she was on this trip. She'd never been to Denmark. And what's crazy is someone else named Vesna, another flight attendant, was supposed to be on this particular flight, but they picked her instead, or someone said, you're coming on this flight, you're Vesna, you're coming on this flight. But she finds out later she wasn't even supposed to be on that flight. Anyway, point of the story is 46 minutes into this flight to Denmark, the plane explodes. A terrorist had put a briefcase bomb in the baggage hold. A Croatian separatist group who was seeking independence from Yugoslavia put it there. Plane breaks up over Czechoslovakia at 33,330 feet. There were 28 passengers on board. Vesna was the only survivor.
No way. 30,000 feet?
Because she had a parachute.
She had a parachute. Survivor. So Bruno Honky, again, these are not my
These are not. You made
tongue.
These names up.
Poor guy.
He's like a farmer in Czechoslovakia, and he hears screaming from a hillside just outside of his village. So he runs over there and finds Vesna. She was very injured. 2 broken legs, 3 broken vertebrae, fractured pelvis, broken ribs, fractured skull, totally messed up. Luckily, he was a World War II medic, and so he kept her alive until she could be transported to the nearest hospital. So she went to Prague and spent several days in a coma, had tons of injuries. Her brain had hemorrhaged.
Was she strapped to a seat as well?
I'll get to that. So she had no...
Tell the story, Josh. Tell the story.
So her brain had hemorrhaged. She got amnesia. So she doesn't remember anything from the hour before. She remembers boarding the flight. And then she remembers waking up in the hospital when her parents were there. So it was like a month that she just has no memory of, right? Yeah. She just has no memory of the crash. So crazy. How did she survive? Well, air safety investigators believe that because she was in the very back of the airplane behind a food cart, when the fuselage broke apart, it was kind of, again, like Lost. She was like a tailie. The tail kind of stayed intact and just didn't fly, but didn't fall as disastrously as the rest of the plane. And she was basically pinned behind this cart, and it fell into a heavily wooded and snow-covered area in Czechoslovakia. And the doctors also said that a medical condition that should have prevented her from being a flight attendant, which was low blood pressure, allowed her to this is what they said. It allowed her low blood pressure kept her heart from bursting upon impact when she hit the ground.
Wow.
I don't know what that means, but that's what it said. She said she passed the flight attendant test. She said she pounded tons of
she got all amped up
right before she went to take her medical to be a flight attendant. So anyway, she remained an avid flyer. She was not afraid of flying because she doesn't remember the accident. She flew, and she died in 2016 at the age of 66.
Wow. Good for her.
33,000 feet.
So
it's unbelievable.
So she what? You said you were going to get to it, but you didn't really.
She was behind the food cart.
Well, I heard that, but she was strapped into the seat.
Nope, she was just out.
She was just out.
Yep.
Wow.
What?
She was pinned behind this food cart in the rear of the plane.
Still, it's
unreal.
Yeah.
It's completely unbelievable.
I mean,
She holds the record for the furthest survived fall without a parachute.
wow.
that is incredible. Dave, quiz time. What is terminal velocity?
120 miles an hour for a human body.
Is it 53 meters per second squared?
No idea.
Okay, I think that's it.
All right. I got
Terminal
one more.
velocity. It's like basically the fastest that you're going
That
to
you're
go.
going to go.
when
It's
you're
also a terrible movie from the 90s.
So she definitely hit that. Like
yeah.
probably I don't know,
man.
20,000 feet.
Craziness. So I'm going to get one more quick story. Betty, these are all women, by the way. Betty Lou Oliver. She was 20 years old in July of 1945. It was July 28th.
She sounds like an American.
Betty Lou Oliver, totally American. She was an elevator attendant at the Empire State Building. So in the final months of World War II.
Dude, these are all like my just worst fears. All right. Falling in an airplane and knowing that you're going down, or being in an elevator.
Yeah. Well, Betty's got you beat here because World War II is winding down. A B-25 service bomber was coming into New York City to bring servicemen back from Massachusetts to LaGuardia Airport. And pilot was super experienced, Captain William Smith. He came in to New York, but fog had rolled in, limiting visibility. Contacted LaGuardia to land. They said, don't land. He said, ignore that. He's going to keep going. Long story short, he ends up in the side of the Empire State Building with a B-52.
Okay.
Hits the 80th floor. Okay.
I have never heard this before.
It's a crazy story. Smith, the pilot, 2 crew members on board, and 11 people in the building die instantly. Crew searched for a couple days for his body. It had entered the building and then fallen down an elevator shaft. So that's kind of bizarre. Inside, it was chaos. You know, you mentioned World Trade Center earlier. Sure, it's very similar. Plane hitting a building. There's fire. People running around. Well, Betty Lou was in her elevator cart on the 80th floor and basically got blown out of this elevator car and had terrible burns, broken pelvis. Her back was broken. Her neck was broken. She was just totally messed up, but she was alive. And so folks on her floor and actually some rescue workers made it up there and found her and put her on a stretcher and unknowingly put her on an elevator on the 79th floor to take her down to the ground to get treatment, right? Well, this elevator had been severely damaged by the impact.
No.
So she's
Betty Lou.
She's on the 70. Yeah, she's like on the 79th floor. Some story says 75, some says 79.
Doesn't matter.
Puts her in the elevator. As soon as they get her in the elevator drops. 1,000 feet.
Oh my god.
1,000 feet. This
bad day
elevator
at work.
plunges. Luckily or unluckily, I guess, 1,000 feet of elevator cable had spooled. You know, as it falls, it's spooling at the bottom, and then the air cushion from this elevator compressing the air, falling down.
Yeah.
Slowed it enough that she survives this 1,000-foot drop in the elevator shaft. Yeah.
You got to go on to like cure cancer or just make your mark.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that earlier. Like, what did these people do with their lives?
Yeah, well, it's like the movie. Yeah, it's like Unbreakable, right? Like you're the sole survivor. She wasn't the sole survivor, but this is the wackiest thing ever. Took her 8 months to recover fully. July 28th, the day
she's back at work.
The day of this incident, that was supposed to be her last day of work.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it was, but took her 8 full months to recover. But 5 months later, while she's still recovering, she returned to the scene with an elevator inspector and rode in an elevator.
Nope. I'd be taking the stairs for the rest of my life.
People were better back then. She's, again, great part of the greatest generation. Like today, if that happened, we'd be claiming all sorts of things. Right?
Josh, good stories, man. That first story especially. No
totally
question.
Crazy.
Supernatural miracle. There's just no way around it.
It's crazy.
No friggin' way. Anyways.
Yep. So, free falling and ultimate stories of survival.
All right.
Great heights.
You have to bring this segment back again of survival stories.
Yes, this is going to be reoccurring for me.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, guys. Thanks again for listening to the You Can Man podcast. Check out our show notes at youcanman.com. Take some time to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, and we really need some more reviews. So if you guys could take a few minutes out of your day and leave us a kind review, that would be much appreciated. Check out our Instagram page and our Facebook page. We'll catch you next time.
On the flip side.